The alert hits your phone at 12:01 on the first of the month before your coffee's even done dripping. Rent. $1,687. Sent. Gone the way it's gone every month for 6 years, like it was never really yours to begin with. You don't even open the notification anymore. You just watch the number in your checking account drop, and then you go make your coffee like nothing happened. Because nothing did happen. This is just Tuesday. This is just the first. But this month, for some reason, you actually stop and look at the number before you close the app. $1,687. And a memory surfaces, uninvited the way they do, of your dad sitting at the kitchen table with a checkbook writing out the mortgage payment by hand. You were maybe 9. You asked him how much the house cost every month because 9-year-olds ask things like that. He said, without looking up, $791 kid. Every month like clockwork. You remember it specifically because it sounded like a phone number to you at the time. You do the math standing in your kitchen, still in yesterday's socks. Your rent. For 1 bedroom, 410 square feet, no yard, no garage, nothing, that's yours when you leave it, is more than double what your father paid for an entire house. A house with 3 bedrooms. A house he still lives in. A house that's his. This is the part nobody warns you about, not the number itself. You already knew rent was high, everybody knows that. It's the shape of the number. The fact that his payment bought him something and yours buys you nothing except permission to stay another 30 days. You didn't do anything wrong to end up here. That's the part that's hard to sit with. You went to school. You got a job. A decent one, $71,400 a year, which sounded like real money when you signed the offer letter at 26. You don't smoke, you don't gamble, you've never once bought a car you couldn't afford. And somehow the math still doesn't work the way it worked for him. So you start pulling the thread. Quietly at first. The way you look something up at 11 p.m. and tell yourself you'll just check one number and go to bed. Your father bought the house in 1998. Purchase price, $94,000. He put down $9,400. 10%, which felt like a lot to him back then. He's told you that 100 times. The mortgage was fixed at 7.25%, 30 years, which meant $641 a month in principal and interest. Add property tax and insurance, and you land right where he told you at the kitchen table, $791 a month. His income that year working shift supervisor at a manufacturing plant, $38,600. Meaning the house cost him roughly 2.5 times his annual salary, and the monthly payment ate up about a quarter of his take-home pay. Now you. Your rent is $1,687. Your income is $71,400, nearly double what he made. And your rent eats up close to 36% of what actually lands in your account after taxes. You are making almost double the money and carrying a heavier burden for a place you will never own a single square inch of. Here's where it stops feeling like bad luck and starts feeling like something else entirely. Because the house your dad bought for $94,000, it's worth $418,000 today. He hasn't done anything to it beyond a new water heater and a repainted porch. The house just sat there existing quietly, working for him every single day for 28 years while he slept and went to work and lived his life. That's $324,000 in equity he didn't have to hustle for. It just accumulated, like interest. Because it basically was. You, on the other hand, you've paid roughly $121,000 in rent over the last 6 years across 2 different apartments, and you have exactly $0 of it back. Not 1 cent. It didn't become anything. It just left. This is the part that's genuinely hard to admit out loud. You make more money than your father ever did, and you are in the way that actually matters poorer than he was at your age. Not because you're careless, because the game changed underneath you while everyone kept telling you it was the same game. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable, because the next question is the one people usually avoid. How did this actually happen? Not in a vague, the economy kind of way. In real numbers. Between 1998 and today, wages for someone in your field grew by roughly 85%. Sounds decent, right? Except median home prices in comparable markets grew by nearly 340% in that same window. Rent specifically, just rent, not even ownership, climbed almost 210%. Your paycheck was never built to keep pace with that gap. Nobody's was. The math simply broke quietly over about 2.5 decades while everyone kept saying, just save more. Like saving was ever going to outrun a number moving 4 times faster than your income. And this is where two people who did everything right end up in completely different places. Picture Gerald. Not your dad, someone else, but close enough to feel familiar. Gerald bought his first home in 2001 for $118,000. Nothing special about Gerald. He wasn't smarter than you. He didn't have some secret. He simply existed at a moment when a starter home cost about 2.5 times an entry-level salary, and a bank was willing to lend him the difference at a rate that made the math survivable. Now picture someone your exact age, same income, same discipline, same good habits, except they're trying to buy that same kind of starter home today. Median price, $422,000. At a 6.8% rate, that's a monthly payment north of $2,700 before taxes and insurance. That's not a math problem you can outbudget your way through. You can clip every coupon in the world and it doesn't close a gap that size. So, pause here for a second because this is the part that actually matters. You are not behind because you failed. You are behind because you're playing the second half of a game where the rules got rewritten in the first half, and nobody handed you the new rule book. That's a real thing. That's not an excuse. That's just true. But, and this is where it turns because it does turn. Knowing that doesn't fix anything by itself. Understanding the gap isn't the same as closing it. And this is where you have a choice that Gerald never had to make because Gerald never needed it. You start small. Not sell everything and become a monk, small. Actually small. You open a high-yield savings account paying 4.6%, a number that used to sound boring to you and now sounds like the only honest deal left on the table. You automate $340 a month into it, the same week you'd normally let that money quietly dissolve into takeout and subscriptions you forgot you had. You also do something almost nobody does. You actually calculate what staying still is costing you. Not emotionally, mathematically. If your rent keeps climbing at even a modest 4% a year, in 10 years you're paying $2,497 a month for the same 410 square feet. 10 years of that and you'll have handed a landlord somewhere around $237,000. Enough almost exactly to have bought your father's old house twice over. That number does something to you. It's not motivating in the loud poster on the wall way. It's quieter than that. It just sits there uncomfortable, refusing to leave. So you keep going. You open a Roth IRA. Max contribution these days sits at $7,000 a year, and you can't hit that yet. Not close, but you start with $200 a month, because $200 a month at the market's long-run average of around 10.5% a year, left alone for 20 years, becomes something like $150,000. Not because you're clever, because you started, and because time is the one thing your father's generation and yours actually have in common. It still works the same way for both of you if you give it enough runway. You're not buying a house next year. You know that. Anyone telling you otherwise is selling you something. But 18 months in your HYA has $9,240 sitting in it quietly, earning while you sleep, the exact way your dad's house used to earn while he slept, just a smaller version starting from a harder place. And here's the thing, nobody tells you about this stage, the quiet part. It stops feeling like losing. It starts feeling like something else. Not winning yet. Just moving. Which after years of watching money disappear on the first of every month feels like its own kind of relief. You still write the rent check. It still stings a little every single month, and honestly, it probably always will a bit. But there's a second number now growing next to it. Smaller, slower, entirely yours. And for the first time in a long time, you're not just watching money leave. You're watching some of it stay. Your father's house worked for him for 28 years without him thinking about it much at all. Yours is going to take longer to build, and it's going to look different. No white picket fence, no kitchen table checkbook moment to remember someday. But it's still yours. Every dollar of it moving in your direction instead of someone else's for the first time since you signed that first lease. That's not the ending anyone puts in a movie. It's better than that, actually. It's real, and it's already started, quietly the way things that actually last usually do.